Cross live to our reporter Hasina Gori, who is at the Constitutional Hill, where parents, academics, workers as well as students will be holding a discussion on how the current fees protests can be resolved. Good afternoon to you, Hasina. Now, we're really interested in what the position or the stance of the parents specifically who are attending the discussion there this afternoon has been over the ongoing Fees Must Fall protests.
Good afternoon. Yes, we're here at the Constitutional Hill, where parents and concerned members of society have gathered together to hopefully have a dialogue on how to be part of the Fees Must Fall movement, which we've seen across the country in the past few weeks. And it's expected to begin in a little while. But with me right now is one of the organizers, Moka van Veeren, and he's going to explain to us what exactly they hope to achieve with such dialogues. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you explain to us what is the main objective of today's event?
I would say today's event is trying to bring together civil society, firstly parents. We have an organization here called the Higher Education Parents Dialogue, or HEPAD. We have a number of parents here who have also come on their own. And, we thought it was very crucial that parents become part of the process that's unfolding now, and that parents start also having a voice in supporting the movement in various ways. Not everybody has to agree with everything about the movement, but I think the parent voice is very important in actually taking this forward and taking some of the pressure and the stress off the campuses. That is also why we've invited broad civil society, we've invited union representation, we've invited workers at universities and other workers, we've invited students, we've invited civil groups and church groups. And all of these groups together, and academics, of course, and all of these groups together, we're hoping that they can be the beginnings of certain actions taken to move this to a national level, and for all of this conflict not to be concentrated in the campuses at the moment, because what we're seeing on the campuses is that there's a very, very sincere struggle unfolding, but it has reached a point where students and university management are not managing to sit down and resolve anything. And in fact, they don't have the power inside the campus to resolve this. This has to be resolved at a national level.
Over the past few weeks, when we've seen these struggles go on, we've seen young students that are on campuses being part of this. How important is it to bring in now the elders, to this conversation? And what solutions are you hoping you can bring to it?
Well, I think this, the problem that students are trying to address stretches across generations. It touches the younger generation as well, and in fact, one of our student representatives here has just come from engaging with school learners. It's a problem that touches them because they need to move into this space, and there will be a very, very large percentage of them that cannot move into the space successfully because of the cost. It touches the parents' generation because they're the ones who are paying, and there's, in certain circumstances, there's generation after generation of families that have not been able to engage in this university space. And those parents we also want to have on board. Of course, there's parents of current university students that are very worried. And they're worried about the safety of their students, they're worried about the academic year, we hear a lot about that. And we want to sit together and say, how can we look at this? And of course, even the older generation, because we have so many families that are actually sustained by grandparents. So it's very much a cross-generational thing.
You speak about safety on campuses, and some of the visuals we've seen play out on campuses have been quite, violent. And what is your response both to campus and to students that are protesting to ensure that it doesn't reach that stages, always?
I've said this before, I think in another interview, is that there was a crucial moment when university management and later the police, but firstly university management, could have responded in a way that would have lessened the potential for violence. But we saw last year, from October last year onwards, millions, sometimes up to 2 million rand a month being spent on bringing in these private security. And frankly, the private security forces have been often abusive in their treatment of students. And we've seen on campuses literally a climate of violence developing where these, what they call bouncers, are deployed, and these security personnel, you know, they're not trained to manage a negotiated situation or to calm a situation down. They are trained basically to take people, club them, suppress them, get them out, move them from A to B, but they are not trained to have dialogue or to defuse the situation. They are trained to forcefully remove people from A to B, and the manner in which that has happened and the kind of force that's been applied, I think have left a lot of students traumatized. Police that have come on board also, I'm not sure if the correct police units have always been deployed in terms of defusing situations rather than contributing to this explosiveness. So I think we have to be aware, I think there's a lot of talk that is kind of blaming every act of destruction on the students. And I think that's also a problem, because I think, some of the things that we saw happening, for instance, in Braamfontein wasn't students at all. Secondly, there are a very diverse group of students. There are some that are incredibly disciplined and incredibly well organized and that do not engage in destruction. There are others that do so for various reasons. While I'm not, condoning wanton destruction, we need the libraries for our students. They need the libraries. They need the facilities. We don't want to lose those facilities. But I think we have to see the violence that has happened within this climate of violence that has grown since the deployment of private security.
Thank you so much. That was Maka van Veeren, one of the organizers of the concerned parents and civil societies that have converged here on Constitutional Hill to look for some kind of solutions for the Fees Must Fall movement and to add their voice of support to the students. We're tracking this developing story, but for now, back to you in studio.